Sorry about that. And greetings. Welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. I'm Salvador Cordova, and I apologize for all the technical difficulties. I'm in the middle of kind of reconfiguring a lot of the network here and also kind of dealing with the computers. So it's been a challenge, and I'm also having some computer problems. So that's pretty much what's up as far as that goes. I'm going to wait just a little bit until a few more people come. So in the meantime, the show tonight isn't going to be the regularly scheduled or the irregularly scheduled content. This is going to be covering stuff about McLean Bible Church, and I'm starting to try to move this elsewhere to a different channel. I'd like to say hi to 20th July 1944 and Andrew Graham. Greetings. So, well, you know, I try to keep the channel low drama as far as me and other channels and other personalities, but there is drama because of what's going on in at my local church, and it is a mega church. It has I call it a $500 million empire because the assets are probably around $200 million. And then if you take the reported revenues, which haven't been really audited in my opinion, but if you accept it at face value, over 15 years, that's $300 million. So that's how I come up with the figure of a $500 million empire. And when churches get that big, this is, it starts to just invite all sorts of problems that you wouldn't have with a church of, say, 20 or 30 people that just meet in a rented room or someone's house. It's really a different story when it becomes a mega church, and just all the opportunities for conflict at large scale. So I'm going to report on what's going on there. About a third of the subscriber base have actually subscribed because of the McLean thing, and that was kind of a quirk. I just didn't at the time have a chance to set up a new channel, and when this all broke out last year, I had a week to try to get a video up and to market it because there was a vote coming on July 18th that ended up being contested and resulting in lawsuits in Fairfax County Court. If Fairfax County Court sounds familiar, that's also the same place where Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are having their lawsuit. So just saying. The title of the stream today is did Platt and Company propose sham elections to avoid a jury trial? And that's just really a rhetorical question. Why did they not have a revote a lot earlier? Why did they invest $300,000, according to my estimate, $300,000 to pay lawyers and lose court cases when they could have done this vote a lot earlier? But now that they are facing a jury trial, which could be even more expensive, now they're deciding to try to play nice, or so it seems. But let me point out that what they are offering is kind of, in my opinion, a bait and switch. And greetings. So this is what this is a bait and switch. I wanted to, Janet, greetings. God bless you. So I wanted to show this here. This is Charles Spurgeon, and I apologize for the video, for the quality of the photo. It says here, discernment is not a matter of simply telling the difference between right and wrong. Rather, it is telling the difference between right and almost right. Discernment is not a matter of simply telling the difference between right and wrong. Rather, it is telling the difference between right and almost right. Now, this has been said in a number of ways. I don't know how accurate the quote is. I sometimes say discernment isn't merely the difference between right and wrong. It's the difference between right and almost right. And then Mark Twain had also another quote. Let's see if I can find it here. Mark Twain said, "The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug." So why am I offering this? I'll explain. In the meantime, let me offer just a brief prayer for this stream. Lord Jesus, please help this stream to succeed. I offer it in glory and honor to you, Lord. And Lord, you said that there would be problems in your church, and sure enough, there are. Be with us tonight, and please be with Janet Duttridge. Heal her and strengthen her, Lord. Comfort her in her afflictions. In Jesus' name, amen. So, McLean Bible is, the leadership is suggesting that, hey, we're going to try to have a revote just like what the lawsuit is requesting, and that's not really accurate. It is not at all accurate. Remember, I said that's why I was quoting Charles Spurgeon, the difference between right, the discernment is knowing not merely the difference between right and wrong, it's the difference between right and almost right. And then, as Mark Twain was saying, the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. The election that McLean Bible, the leadership, David Platt and Company are offering is not the election that the plaintiffs, that is the people that are filing the lawsuit, are demanding. The election that David Platt is suggesting is having a voter base that has been tainted, people that have gotten his stamp of approval, who applied for membership, and also a group of people that were denied membership that would oppose him. He's also driven off people from the church. So this is a tainted voter roll, but you can't tell that unless you study the legal documents carefully. Also, during last year's July 18th vote and also June 30th vote, people had driven from Florida, from Maine, from the Carolinas, and many distances to place their vote, only to be denied. I mean, these people broke their vacations, drove from their summer homes to make the vote. And that's not really fair to them. And David knows that there was even one guy that drove all the way from Texas. He drove 17 hours straight. Actually, I think it's probably going to be a longer drive than that. He drove a long time. He arrived 15 minutes early after taking off at the urgency of this, and then he was told he was removed from the member rolls. So David Platt is pretending that this is a legitimate revote when, in fact, one could argue that it has been, the voter rolls have been packed in the intervening year since that contested July 18th vote, that the argument could be made that members added since July 18th are illegitimately nominated, and that the process was designed to pack, so to speak, pack the electorate. Yes. But he may be representing this to the public like he's trying to be nice and try to reconcile and try to move forward with a thriving church. He used the word thriving church, and that's not correct. The church is dying. It's lost 80% of its brick and mortar attendance, and they don't know how much is their online attendance. Even with that, their official congregational report set records for lows. The official ones, the unofficial ones, which I was helping to count, that segregated the online from the brick and mortar, showed a drop from like about 14,000 down to less than 3,000 on Sunday morning. Also, the chairman of the board, Larry Cooper, who's in cahoots with David Platt, admitted they really don't know how many online attendees they have. And yet they still put it in their official congregational report. Maybe they should segregate it, and the true numbers would really tell the story that this is not a thriving church. The other thing is, would this be a fair election if all the facts are not yet out? Like if it turned out that the judge ruled that there was election tampering and rigging and all sorts of coercion and bullying, wouldn't that be materially important to conduct a vote? Shouldn't the voters be aware that the court has charged the leadership with illegal activities before they vote? I mean, right now, the voters are just getting a one-sided viewpoint in violation of the spirit of the Constitution. And the congregational meetings where this is held, there is no opportunity for discussion whatsoever to air opposing viewpoints. David Platt is free, as of right now, to just own the microphone, control it, and threaten with arrest anyone who speaks against him, even though in the spirit of the Constitution, they can call for points of order. And there was a video that was circulated of a 9 a.m. meeting, a 9 a.m. worship service where the vote was held. And armed security swarmed on someone demanding a point of order. And yeah, they let you know that you can't exercise your constitutional rights without threat of arrest and jail. And the irony is McLean Bible, the leadership, Platt & Company, are saying it's so unbiblical to enlist secular courts to settle church disputes. And that's exactly what he's doing. He tried to do it to me, to threaten me with arrest and jail if I try to worship the Lord and take communion with my brothers and sisters. So his administration has filed papers in 5 counties against me with law enforcement. So, I mean, I'm just pointing out that there seems to be a double standard, when it suits them. So I'm going to cover some of the legal documents here. And again, I'm pointing out this quote by Mark Twain. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. And then also Charles Spurgeon. Discernment is not a matter of simply telling the difference between right and wrong. Rather, it is telling the difference between right and almost right. So let's look at what David Platt and company are offering. So here it is, recently this week it was announced, online congregational meeting May 18th at 7 p.m. Our church family will vote on a plan for lawsuit resolution. And it says more about this plan, click here. And I got to tell you something that's disconcerting. From the very beginning, they're spinning things. It says here, we're facing a significant moment as a church family. We have an opportunity to move forward together as a thriving, united church, bringing hope to the nations. beginning right here in Metro Washington, D.C. First of all, as I said, this is a dying church. They destroyed in 2 years what it took 55 years to build. It's a disaster. Um, and so, I mean, just they're spinning this. And then they said here, let me go on. I mean, again, this is my opinion. As opinion goes. As some of you may remember, 5 individuals filed a lawsuit against our church contesting our election of elders last summer. Um, while we are grateful this conflict is no longer part of our daily church life, for most people in MBC, the conflict continues to cause harm, and resolution is still needed in accord with God's word for the glory of his name and his church. As elders, leaders, pastors, location pastors, and central ministry directors, we want to take extra steps to strive toward healing in our church. What about that Christian mother, David Platt and company, that you took armed security? Your church's armed security confronted her in front of her children, then had Fairfax County Police issue her a summons to court, and then your guys tried to get her thrown in jail and fined. How's that? So you want to try to have some healing? You know, it's unconscionable that you're going to put her on church trial and she shows up in her own defense and she's not able to speak in her own defense. You made sure of it by improperly trespassing her and then trying to get her thrown in jail. Do you know that that doesn't really sit well with a lot of people? And, you know, most people would not want to return to your church if they knew that. Now, why don't you tell the truth? Why don't you want to have a fair election? Why don't you recount everything that you've done, your account of events, and then you let the people that you've treated like this come before the congregation and tell their side of the story. I wonder how that would affect the elections. You want healing? You stop doing stuff like that. So they say plan for lawsuit resolution. Okay, so and it says click here, and I took the trouble of already having it up. And here is almost right. It said, voting at the new election may be any active member of the church, including individuals on the church's active roll as of March 2020, who before God still claimed to be an active member of the church. Okay. As I said, what is really happening here is they've had time to manipulate the voter rolls even more. So their offer to do a revote is now a revote with illegitimately added new members and illegitimately removed more members. This is not the spirit of trying to remedy something. This is doubling down and you know, if we can call it rigging elections, it's doubling down on rigging elections. They're padding the rolls. But it sounds like they're trying to reconcile. And someone has speculated, and God only knows if this is the case, that they are trying to appear to the judge as if they're trying to reconcile, and that the plaintiffs, that is the people that filed the lawsuit, are just being belligerent. But let me point out a legal document that really constitutes the lawsuit. It says here in the original lawsuit under remedies, and this is in legalese, and I'm just, you know, I'll do my best to try to uncoil this. Look at this. Okay, remedy, line 5. Let me show it here. I'm sorry for the print being so small. Make it as big as possible. So what the lawsuit is asking of the judge, enter a temporary and permanent injunction forbidding defendant, that is Platt Company, and its board of elders from permitting voting at the new election and any subsequent vote of confidence by any member added to MBC rolls subsequent to the July 18th, 2021 meeting in order to preserve the status quo as of the date of the tainted election. Plaintiffs ask this court to declare invalid as violative of the MBC Constitution. What they're saying, to the best of my interpretation, is, let me call them the good guys, the ones who are filing the lawsuit. They're saying to the judge, we don't want anything after July 2021 as far as the voter rolls. We don't want Platt Company to suddenly pad the voter rolls with the people that they want, have an opportunity to drive even more of the people he doesn't want, like say through intimidation, arrest, threats of arrest, you know, basically some sort of effective excommunication or removal from the membership rolls on questionable charges. So the plaintiffs are saying, we're asking the judge, don't, and I say we, meaning the good guys, we're asking the judge, don't let Platt do that, because this is gonna be rigged even more. That's the way I'm reading this. And I do know for a fact that when some people were applying for membership and there was even a suspicion that they were going to vote against David Platt and company, they would not be allowed membership, even if they'd served the church for 24 years. So there are a lot of people that served the church for many years, were just never bothered to be official members. So, you know, the offer that David Platt is making sounds almost like what the plaintiffs are demanding, and it's not. It's not. It's close enough that to an untrained eye and ear, or someone who's not scrutinizing it very carefully, it would sound like it's a great deal. It's the same thing, and it's not, because you have a different set of voters being involved. That's basically the way to say it. This is a different set of voters, and the set of voters that the good guys are seeking a remedy for are the voters way back in 2021 whose rights were denied. They're the ones, because if that vote in July 18th was illegitimate, everything afterward is the leadership itself could be illegitimate. So this is just trying to reset to that vote that appears to have been rigged, and through all sorts of intimidation. And let me, this is what the judge will rule on. I can only give my opinion, but let me just share. Let's see, line 70. The actions of the board have undermined the independence of the vote and intimidated and coerced voters with the possible loss of their livelihoods for voting the wrong way. So how could it be that this could be the case? The church employs a large number of people. They get paid. It's their livelihood. It's been an informal policy that people who work for the church Monday through Friday are expected to volunteer for the church Saturday and Sunday. and that means you become a member, then they can get you to work 7 days a week or so. Now, that's not a official requirement, but I think you get what I mean. And so these poor, overworked people, maybe they object to what's going on and they'd like to vote the leadership out. So what ended up happening is the ballots were stamped with your name and they knew who you are. And that was the first time it ever happened in church history. They made up some flimsy excuse that it had to be done this way because they thought there was ballot box tampering. And that turned out to be false. They never justified why. So it ends up that they can figure out who voted for and who voted against. They can take countermeasures and, these poor people could be fired if they were caught voting no. Also, the members who were not under their employment, they could be identified and taken care of. And I'm hearing very disturbing stories to that effect, where people who were, not even vocal, they're getting targeted, isolated, and excuses are made up to scrub them from the voter rolls. Now, let's be fair. They have a chance to come before the judge and say, "Oh no, we never did anything like that." But you know what would happen if this is not settled out of court, like they're trying to make it, they're attempting, but has to be settled in court. They have to testify under oath that they weren't rigging the elections. They're going to be subpoenaed documents, and it's going to be very interesting if there are, some people said, "Oh yeah, we were tracking people that we didn't want involved in the vote." And okay, let's say they under oath say that they weren't doing that at all, but then the subpoenaed documents show otherwise, or someone else's testimony shows otherwise. This could be really bad for them. And so there was a Capstone Report article that speculated David Platt's doing this to avoid the process of discovery, which involves sworn testimony, what they call depositions, and subpoena of documents, not to mention a jury trial. So this will put them in a very hard position because they've come out and made public statements. And what if they're caught under oath and having to say, they're questioned under oath and say, "Did you really say that?" And he'll say, and then they'll show the document. "Did you really say that?" Before the congregation, they'll show the document. And they'll say, "Is that true?" And if he knows he didn't tell the truth, what's he going to do on the stand? You get my drift? This can make someone feel, if someone's innocent, it'll make them feel a little uncomfortable, but he knows he was on the right. But if someone knows that they didn't tell the truth to the congregation, what would that do? One, if he lies under oath, that's perjury. Two, if he admits that he lied to the congregation but's now telling the truth under oath, that looks really bad on him. And that would be grounds for him to be removed from the church. So, this can be a very uncomfortable situation for them. And if I were them, I can understand why they wouldn't want the court records made public. Because if all these suspicions, let's say that the plaintiffs, the good guys, don't even get what they're asking for, but all this discovery process has shown a trail of corruption, it'd be very easy for someone else to raise a lawsuit. Like, let's say, open the books and let's see what's in the books. Because I read the Constitution recently, and it said any member can inspect the books and audit them. And if we find financial issues there, that are disconcerting, uh, that's fair game. And who knows if we find something that's illegal under federal or state law. Wow. So I'm just pointing out why the discovery process is going to make some people probably not too comfortable. And also their non-disclosure agreements. And I don't know whether a court order can override that. So let's say an employee who's been put on under a non-disclosure agreement is under a gag order not to talk about certain things. But if the court demands and deposes them, that employee is then bound to disclose, as far as I know. So suddenly they can start disclosing facts. And sometimes when the facts are all laid out, people start to connect the dots and see things. And that could be very damaging. So this is not a good situation. These congregational meetings were hastily put together. The announcement was made this past Wednesday, and now they're demanding people to show up this coming Wednesday, and they're doing it online. And they're saying, oh, you guys have to vote on this. We're trying to reconcile. It's like, well, are you going to give the other side an opportunity to contest what the leadership is saying? I mean, this is a congregational church. It isn't a dictatorship, This is why there are certain customary rights and privileges offered at congregational meetings. And if you're suppressing dissent in materially important things, and you're withholding information from voters and telling them to vote based on what you have to say, and the people that you're accusing of being divisive and conniving, or I mean, they'd never use the word conniving. I don't know the words that they use, but they use the word divisive a lot. If you're not going to give them an opportunity to tell their side of the story, I don't know that that's exactly a fair election. You're just kind of misleading the congregation, and they've had a history of doing that. So again, I'm trying to point out they're trying to encourage the congregation to approve a revote, but that's not really a revote. It is a pact. It's another rigged pact revote, and it's unacceptable, and it is in violation of the legal complaint that is saying, no, you can't do stuff like that. You can't have a revote where you've packed it in your favor. That's exactly rigging the elections, which was the problem in the first place. So I just wanted to call that out. And, we'll see how this plays out. At some point, I'm going to try to move all this to a different channel so we can get back to our regularly programmed material. But all of this has suddenly just kind of been forced upon, the congregation, and we're scrambling to get the word out and set the record straight. But even if Platt manages to get his what seems to me a sham revote, okay, that's just my opinion. If he manages to put together a sham revote, it could be all moot anyway. The lawsuit will progress. Hopefully the judge will see that, based on this legal document I showed, that is saying what Platt is doing is unacceptable to the good guys, to the plaintiffs. And hopefully the judge will see that this was a sham action and it wasn't a genuine attempt to meet the plaintiff's request. In fact, it was even worse because the election got rigged even more. And are they going to have an online vote where people that are not that interested are just going to get an email and they'll just check yes, 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 without even paying attention? The reason we have congregational meetings in person is the people that go are the most interested in the vote. They're concerned. They'll listen to the arguments. before voting. So, and it may not even be constitutional to have these electronic votes that span 5 days. So I'm just throwing that out there. Um, I'm hoping that the plaintiffs, the good guys, will continue with their lawsuit, and that the discovery process that involves sworn depositions, testimony under oath, subpoena of relevant documents, and a jury trial, I will hope that that will move forward and the record will be laid out for the public to see. And if the judge grants a revote, I hope he will allow or insist that the members voting will be given copies of the ruling, and hopefully the ruling will rule on whether the elections were rigged. I think if they get that in their hands, I hope some people will say, hey, the judge has basically ruled that Platt and Company have rigged the elections. What do you think now? I would insist that every voter who votes in that revote be given a copy of the judge's order, and maybe um, maybe a summary of what it means, because that would be very incriminating. How do you think the vote might proceed then, when everything the pastor was saying is going to be refuted by the Fairfax County court judge, when he rules that the bad guy was David Platt and Company? I think that might tilt the election a little bit, and I think that would be more fair. I also think that I really hope, even though it wasn't in the lawsuit, that they open the congregational floor where members can come forward before the congregation and tell their story and give their side of the account. Now, it says in the Bible, Proverbs 18, I believe, that one side tells a story until the other side comes along and sets the record straight. David Platt is saying we want to resolve this biblically, not precluding the other side from telling their story is unbiblical, and especially using armed security to make sure the other side doesn't tell their story. That's really unbiblical. So again, thank you all for coming. All right, so thank you all for joining this evening. That's all I had. I encourage people to, there's another channel going on, probably, Praise I Am, and I'll drop in maybe to that channel if they're up and running. So thank you all for joining. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with all of you. Have a good evening. Good night.